There's a village just 8 kilometers from ours, as the crow flies. A place most people will never even hear about, let alone see. It's not on any map. It's a small pocket of land pressed close to the Cambodian border where mud roads bend around and back into the trees, and stories in the village drift around like haze. And in the middle of it all stands Wat Tham Sarapong. Wat is a word for temple. It's a mostly forgotten forest temple with an energy so intense the locals speak of it like a living thing. We've been here before. This place wasn't always swallowed by jungle. Long ago, people from every direction converged here and carved out a life together. Eventually, their hardships were so great that the eldest daughter of Rama King IX, Princess Chulabhorn herself, intervened while visiting the area, building homes, gifting land to each villager, offering each one a cow and a pig, and renaming the settlement Ban Thap Thim Siam 06. That was a very long time ago. But time has a way of reclaiming what it made, and the temple eventually slipped back into the vines. In part 1, we wandered its outer chambers like respectful but uneasy intruders. Today, with the border conflict flaring, the sound of heavy artillery droning on nearby, and checkpoints closing access to areas like this across the border provinces, we weren't sure we'd make it back in. But my wife knows these roads like a second skin. She slipped us through the perimeter, and somehow we emerged inside. The monks we encountered looked surprised to see us, maybe even amused. Only 5 remain here, quiet, reclusive, caretakers of a world almost no one visits anymore. From these grounds, you can see why villagers believe this was once a royal palace, or the ruins of an ancient city that collapsed over 2,000 years ago. At the center, a sheer circular rock wall rises behind the main temple like a natural amphitheater. And beneath its shadow lies the sleeping Buddha, resting above a dry riverbed where a grand waterfall once thundered down to the river that flowed quickly to the lake below. We climbed the outer levels, crossing an arched stone bridge that once spanned across that flowing river. We passed abandoned monk quarters, meditation huts overtaken by moss, wide marble staircases leading into open-air meeting platforms now claimed by banyan roots. Then a grand room, frozen in time. Marble everywhere, ornate statues still standing. A ballroom-like chamber half lit by the jungle pressing through now gated windows. Another level below, there was an empty meditation room that led out to the sleeping Buddha. And on the opposite end, there was an odd, short, narrow staircase that led steeply downward. Halfway down, a dozen giant bats exploded into the open space from a darkened room. A wall of wings and warnings that nearly knocked me off the staircase.
Jesus Christ.
But after a regroup, a tightened upper lip, and a deep breath or two, I went back down. The bats had cleared, thankfully. The room below was just a simple bathing and bath area for monks, indeed tucked one level beneath the giant sleeping Buddha out of reverence. From here we stepped outside onto the lowest terrace, and like so many before, that's when this day shifted. A long lane stretched from the grand building toward the lake. To the temple's funerary stupa grounds, and between the lake and the stupas, a tiny dwelling perched above the water, where a solitary monk was sitting like a statue in meditation. Tasked with tending to the important energy it holds at its position at the furthest edge of the temple grounds, this sacred space was assigned to this monk long ago. Spending the majority of his time in solitude, he greeted us like family he was expecting. When my wife asked permission for me to film, his face lit up. He got up and guided us out and down another short path and then up a semi-steep rock incline where he pointed to what he called 10,000-year hoof prints. Impressions in the stone, he said, were left by ancient water buffalo climbing from the high pastures above down to the lake.
ที่มันเหยียบแล้วมันถลายไปมันมีรอยก้าวเดินอันนี้ก็ใช่มันเดินเอียงเดินตรงนี้นี่เดินไปอย่างนี้เนี่ยนะนี่พวกนี้
ว้าว
แล้วนี่มันมีเหมือนพอดีดินมันกบแถวนี้มีหมดเลยนี่แถวนี้
from down through here
ต้องรอยการเหยียบของมันมาประมาณ 2,000 กว่าปีแล้วแหละตั้งแต่เมื่อไหร่ยุคขององค์สมมาสัมพุทธเจ้าเลยโมเมนต์ไม่ใช่เดี๋ยวนี้เนี่ยปราสาทราชวังเก่ามันก็ถล่มลงเนาะมันถล่มมันมีรอยนี้
Later, back at his dwelling, as if the land wanted to prove him right, a villager appeared in the distance, leading a herd of buffalo down a similar path from the other side of the lake. I quickly scurried down to a pretty decent vantage point and watched them pour into the lake one after another exactly as the monk had described. But one caught my scent, lifted its head, locked on, then another and another. And when the lead buffalo came out of the water swiftly, ready to charge, I turned tail and backed up that incline faster than I'd like to admit. Back at the monk's dwelling, he and my wife were having quite a laugh, having witnessed the whole thing unfold. By the time we climbed back up to the main grounds, something had shifted. We'd begun our day at a place where falling water once hypnotized entire gatherings and somehow ended at the same spot on the opposite side of the canyon, as if the temple had folded time in on itself. This forest temple is a glimpse into an ancient borderland, a world that still breathes out here if you're brave enough or lucky enough to find it. What a day. In this region, it isn't done revealing itself, not by a long shot.